one interesting aspect of this area is our intuitions, and I think they play a big role in this. Now, it's acknowledged by a great many biologists that life looks designed. So, at least on that level, there's an appearance of design. So I've just got a few quotes here which are quite telling. So this is Francis Crick. He says, organisms appear as if they had been designed to perform in an astonishingly efficient way, and the human mind therefore finds it hard to accept there need be no designer to achieve this. Now, obviously, ID proponents would disagree with the second part of that statement, but that acknowledgement, at least, that things appeared designed is quite important. He also says biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see was not designed but rather evolved. So it's this word constantly. You know, we have to keep telling ourselves that these things are not what they seem, basically. So it's fighting against these intuitions. And one more from Richard Dawkins. He says that the illusion of purpose is so powerful that biologists themselves use the assumption of good design as a working tool. So the idea that things are designed, this kind of illusion that he calls it, it's actually good on, what's the word? It's good in practical terms. It's kind of a fruitful heuristic for doing research. Now, obviously, that's kind of a metaphorical use of the word design. But yeah.
Yeah, but they can't avoid it. They, you know, whenever, structures in life are talked about, it's always with purpose in mind, or like of using design language. And so, it's very difficult to stop doing that. And, it's hard to find language around it. And so I think that should give us an indication that the reason it's hard to avoid the language is because the purpose is there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think there's been some interesting papers just on this topic about the use of design talk in biology, and this language of purpose and intention, and things like function as well. And I think there is a case to be made that if we didn't have these concepts in this language, it would render kind of biology kind of sort of unintelligible. Basically, it wouldn't make sense. So yeah, that's a great point. I mean, Dawkins even sort of defines the study of biology. He defines it as the study of complicated things that give the appearance of having been designed for a purpose. I've put a little footnote there at the bottom. There's an interesting article that actually documents more and more of these quotations from biologists about the appearance of design. Cool. So if you want to kind of, see more evidence of that, have a look at that. So it's organisms appear designed. So the other thing is, I think it's in The Blind Watchmaker. Dawkins contrasts this idea between designed objects and what he calls designoid. So this picture on the left here is I don't know if you've seen this picture before.
I think it's a rock from Mars, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of looks a little bit like a face.
Yeah.
If you kind of squint a little bit, but yeah. So he kind of contrasts things like this rock face that just vaguely give the appearance of a certain human feature or object. Then he contrasts it with obviously Mount Rushmore, which is the four presidents' faces. His view is that biology, kind of the appearance of design, is more like these designoid objects. So they're not really design; it's just this appearance. Whereas ID proponents would argue that biological systems are more like these the kind of detail and complexity that Mount Rushmore would exhibit as well. So I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, designoid. It's a bit of a weird one, but so why is this important? I mean, the intuition of design, it doesn't tell us that ID is true, but in there's a kind of view of phenomenal conservatism, or the principle of credulity, which Richard Swinburne, he's another philosopher. So he argues that it's a basic principle of knowledge that we ought to believe that things are as they seem to be until we have evidence that we are mistaken. If you say the contrary, never trust appearances until it's proved that they were reliable, you'll never have any beliefs at all. For what would show that appearances were reliable, except more appearances? So Richard Swinburne, he's not an ID proponent, but this is a general epistemological principle that you can apply in other areas of life. And I think combined with this intuition of design, I think there is an argument to be made that at least the burden of proof lies on the kind of naturalists to overcome this strong intuition. So I think, yeah, given this sort of acknowledged strong appearance of design, there's a sort of a priori justification for believing in it. But the important thing is it's until it's shown otherwise. So it depends on contrary evidence. You could also call this the duck theorem, which, you know, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, smells like a duck, it's probably a duck, unless, you know, you're shown the electronics inside, and that illusion is shown to be false. So I think that's a good rule to go by in biology as well. But it's a kind of tentative a priori justification rather than a scientific justification.